And when you buy your home, let's talk about what you're going to cheers with.
Well, that might be some wine.
Some wine. We'll start with one that I personally would not be cheersing with, but lots and lots of people love it. You know, we're going through the noble grapes. We'll start with the white grape this week. That is Moscato.
So you wouldn't choose it?
I don't think I would. However, I will say I'll jump ahead a little bit. When we are talking about what it pairs with some of my all-time favorites. So
Asian food. I knew it. Yeah.
Yes. And I am very guilty. Usually if I'm eating Asian, it's more the sushi route. So I have sake with it because that pairs so beautifully. However, this is making me think maybe I should at least try a little glass of Moscato next time I'm having sushi or some sort of Asian dish.
It's really good, and mostly because it seems a little sweet, but that's mostly because of the floral notes that come off of it. Now you can get it sweeter. I mean, in fact, they use Moscato to make dessert wines, so you can have that, as an alternative. But low acidity, low tannin, really, really pairs well. The best part, though, not every listener will agree with this, but the best part is it's low alcohol, so it makes a perfect accompaniment to eating food. So if you're eating spicy things, you got to drink more.
Okay, I get where you're going now.
So you don't want a 15% alcohol content where Moscato's, I didn't put this in our notes, but they'll tend to be, in the 5, 6, 7 range.
Mm-hmm.
So less alcohol is a good thing when you're chasing spicy food. And it does pair beautifully with that. And so these are cool climate grapes. They're low acidity, low alcohol, low tannin. Everything about them, in my opinion, makes them a perfect pair with great Asian food.
Mm-hmm. And another one is seafood. So
one of my favorites.
So when we're talking seafood, how would you feel about Moscato and oysters? Are we talking more like a cooked fish?
A dry Moscato for sure. You could do oysters, but an say a sweeter version, I probably wouldn't go that route. I'd probably go, if I'm doing oysters, I tend to go more towards, say, a champagne for raw oysters. But Moscato could do the trick. And by the way, you can get sparkling Moscatos. But if you're counting carbs, you might want the non-sparkling version because they tend to be even lower in alcohol, so less of a carb counter, or less of a carb bomb. So
good thing I'm not.
Yeah, right. Well, when it comes to drinking wine, the last thing I'm doing is thinking about carbs. I mean, let's be real. You drink a glass of Moscato, roughly a 6-ounce pour, and you got about 170 calories. So this is pure enjoyment. And so you got to get the rest of your day's calories right so that you don't feel guilty when you're enjoying these kinds of pleasures.
Absolutely. I think that's across the board with wine. You can't be drinking it and counting your calories. It's more of a thing that you aren't so concerned with.
Yeah. And you know what, when you're drinking Moscato, I totally get you why you don't choose that right out of the, that doesn't become your first choice, but there are some beautiful flavors that come with Moscatos or Muscat wines, and they don't age like, the reds or some of the whites, but they can hold for several years. They're going to get a lot darker as they age, but don't let that scare you. You don't want them to go too dark, but they will get really, really goldish, almost brown in color. And they get this really interesting, rich caramel like flavor. So they can be pretty darn good. And you get a lot of chocolate notes and things of that nature. So, but in general, something that's fresh or that's new, things like mandarin orange, pear, orange blossom, honeysuckle, which just those flavors make it seem sweeter.
Absolutely.
And makes it a pretty approachable wine. And it's made to be consumed as soon as it's in the bottle. You don't want this to be laid down for a long time.
It's nothing like Gewürztraminer like we talked about last week.
And listen to you over there. You've been working on that pronunciation a little bit. That's a tongue twister yeah, I mean, it's a crazy word. But so let's flip to red wines. We're going to talk about Merlot.
Yum. And the similar wines to that are obviously going to be Cabernet. They come from the same Cab Franc. So Cab Franc, I guess I would look at as the mother. And then these are kind of the children / stepchildren.
I can see that it'd be the mother, and that makes total sense. But Cab Franc, as I heard a guy call it once, I
Oh,
always thought
Frankie,
of
I
it as
like
a
that.
male
Oh,
grape, but he was mispronouncing it. So I'll never forget this guy calling it Cab Franc, and I thought, what in the world is Cab Franc? And I thought, oh, okay, I get it. It's Cab Franc, but that is the parent.
mm-hmm.
And then you've got Cab Sav or Cabernet
Yep.
Sauvignon coming from the
Carmenere.
same. Yep,
Yep.
Carmenere. So you have all of these things coming from the mothership, if you will, and then you have some similar grapes out there like Grenache and Malbecs and Montepulcianos.
Mm-hmm.
Great wines, and if you love big fruity wines, then you'd probably love. I had a Grenache the other night, and from France, delicious, just really good. I love Grenache and even Spanish Grenache or Garnacha, really good stuff. So Merlots, though, have a little bit of a bad rap from a particular movie that was,
Oh
what,
my
20 years
gosh.
ago or more.
Oh, I don't
Right?
know.
It's been a long time.
I think I watched it for the first time maybe 2013. I bought it actually when you could still buy DVDs off of Netflix.
Oh, right.
And yeah,
What's the name of that?
Sideways.
Yeah, Sideways. That's
Sideways,
it.
and it
Yep.
ruined it. It
It did.
absolutely curb stomped it.
It did. I love that term. It did, and it's that stigma is finally lifting.
Yeah, it is
a little bit. It's beginning to go away. And I mean, gosh, if you think about Merlot, Chateau Petrus out of France, you're talking about the most expensive bottle of Merlot, period, with an average price. What did you say?
$3,499 average price for one of those bottles of wine.
It's 100% Merlot.
True.
So somebody is still loving Merlot. Petrus has not indicated that they're having a hard time selling their highly allocated wines.
Right.
So somebody still likes Merlot. And I have to tell you, Merlots can be very, very full-bodied. These are generally medium to full-bodied, but I've tasted Merlots and have some in the collection that are full-bodied. You'd confuse them with a Cab.
Yep.
And part of that's because of the lineage that they come from Cab. But these things are very medium to full-bodied, and they have high tannins, medium acidity, but these boys fruity. They're fruity. Yeah, for sure. Particularly New World.
Yeah.
If you're in California or even Chile, which is coming on strong with Merlot, or Argentina, even Australia. But if you go into those places, cherry fruit, plum, blue fruit, particularly blueberries, blackberries, those kind of things, chocolate, bay leaf, those are a lot of the flavors that you get. And I think you're right, Sarah. These things carry a lot of fruit-forward punch.
And it makes you think that they might be sweet, but it's really just like we're talking about the Moscato. That's more floral. This is more fruity. Yep. If you get it from the hotter climates too, where it tends to be more dry and windy, you're going to get a thicker skin grape. So you're probably going to have more of a bold wine. So if you prefer a more bold Merlot, maybe look for those regions in the hotter areas.
Yeah, the areas where you get that kind of condition, I think Sarah brings a great point. They are bolder, they're bigger, so they feel full-bodied.
Right.
The viscosity, if you will, makes them seem, and they are much more full-bodied. And when they've got the fruit to go along with it, it's a powerhouse.
Oh, yeah.
It really, really is good. And here's what's great about Merlot. It pairs with almost anything. It cover the gamut really, from pizza, barbecue, chicken, roasted meats, lots of things.
I see aged goat cheese. Yum, yum.
You picked up on that one. Probably one of my favorite cheeses is goat, and I loved aged goat cheese. Sort of has the texture of an aged parm, so almost like a little crunch.
Ooh, yum!
And they're so good, but Merlot, unfortunately, developed a stigma from that stupid movie Sideways, and it's taken it years to recover, but it literally threw Merlot into this tailspin for a while. I mean, sales went down across the world.
Oh, drastically. We did a whole show on Merlot, so you'll have to go back and watch it if you didn't watch the Merlot show. But, oh my gosh. And the movie, it's good. Do not get me wrong.
Okay.
But my God, it's not cinematic masterpiece. It looks like a very low budget film, and I don't know. People are crazy. People have lost their minds. They let things like that influence their decisions.
Herding bias.
Yes, it is insane.
Yep.
Always So I'll even be a part of this. I'm going to go probably try a glass of Moscato this weekend with sushi,
Likewise.
just to try it. Always try the wine before you take other people's opinion of it, because everyone's palate's so different.
Everybody has a palate that is their own. I mean, it's your palate and it likes what it likes. And if you let everybody else influence it, I think you miss the things that you most love. So make your own decision. Go try
Yeah, there
it.
you
And if
go.
you don't like it, then don't drink it again. But be aware that you might find things that you love and you were missing them. So give it a shot. I'm with you, Sarah. Try a Moscato. Go get a great Merlot. And by the way, Merlots, you don't have to break the bank for those. You can get into the $15-20 per bottle range, and you can go all the way up, as you said, on Chateau Petrus. You go up to 3,600.
Sure.
So,
Drop a
which
couple
is
bands on it. That's
nuts.
genius.
I just can't imagine. But nevertheless, Merlot is one of my favorites, and it goes great with all the things that I mentioned. But don't forget, it goes great. Most people think, oh, I got to have Cabernet or Bordeaux with steak. Merlot is one of the best choices for good filet mignon or really any steak. And peppercorn sauce or
Mm.
a red wine sauce, just great with Merlot. And if you happen to be making that at home, make sure you cook that red wine sauce with the Merlot so that you've got flavors being married there. So what you're tasting out of the glass and off the plate are going to pair well. So we've got Moscato and Merlot, a little education on those. I hope everybody will go out and try each of
Yes.
those wines this week, and hope you enjoy them. Sarah, that's about all we have for this show. So I guess we will start tuning out here. We've got a new show coming up next week. We're going to be making some changes to our show. And so love to hear from all of our listeners what you'd most like to learn, what you'd most like to talk about. And I think we're going to be opening up the call-in line or the text or the email thing so they can ask questions during the show. So
For sure.
yeah, so with that, we appreciate everybody joining. For Sarah, I'm Phil, and we really appreciate you listening. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Absolutely.